projects. Another instrument is looking at what kind of propositions could be attracted from philanthropies, lottery foundations. The difference is that there is always a very specific mission connected to the aim of the philanthropy. So that stresses the importance of your project aligned with that mission. And another interesting avenue is and this is that looking at the private sector, thinking about corporate CSRs, corporate social responsibility. So thinking whether in your local ecosystem or private sector, there might be enterprises, companies that they do dedicate part of their funding resources to sustainable objectives, and explore in which way they might be interested in supporting some of your initiatives. And this could be even an in-kind donation or purchasing. If you're thinking about a public park, could be purchasing of furniture, but there might be interesting opportunities there. The third area I wanted to mention is the one related to challenges. Sometimes they're called challenges or prizes. They are often created and supported by global philanthropies, in some cases by government. The feature of challenges is that the entity, the organization creating the challenge is asking a specific question, which could be tailored to your city, could be tailored to an urban problem, which is common across various regions. And then that stimulates the proposition of solutions that may come from cities or partnerships between cities and the private sector. And then this translates into a prize which has a monetary value of which could change depending on the size of the initiative. There's been, for instance, the Bloomberg Mayor Challenge. There's been a prize created by the Toyota Foundation, which has a focus on sustainable mobility. There might be others at a smaller scale. And the advantage of these challenges is that by answering to the challenge, the city goes through a process in engaging with the local SMEs, the private sector. So by doing that, you also create something which is supported and co-developed, co-created with a wider ecosystem of stakeholders. And then following up from that, the last area to think about, and I'm sure many of them and of your cities are already doing that, is to thinking about networking and twinning with other cities. So in some cases, this may not result in a direct funding, but it may open up opportunities to co-running for the same grants or funding instruments. And there is also a non-monetary value in that, which is related to, for instance, knowledge transfer and capacity building on how to handle and deliver funding received from other institutions. For the next section of my presentation, I just wanted to provide a brief overview on some case studies that do relate to some of the projects we've been seeing emerging from the program we've been part of. I won't linger on the details. As you can see on the right-hand side, we also added some links and resources to sources of funding and finance that relate to the topic. So once we share the slides, you'll be able to click into that and see what they're all about. This is, for instance, on the left-hand side, an instrument supported by the European Union, which has a specific focus in some regions in Georgia, which provides a grant up to 100K euro. You can see it's quite interesting, the focus on urban renewal, tourism development, and this, for instance, could be used to regenerate venues, art institutions, and it's quite important to highlight as well that the expected result should have a broader impact from a social and economic perspective. We have seen, we are aware of the importance also of socioeconomic support, support for IDP, internally displaced people. And this example is quite interesting because it looks beyond the boundaries as a source of finance, beyond the boundaries of the European Union and also Europe as a region. This is a grant provided by philanthropy, and it has a strong focus on supporting solutions for development of skills, local capacity, and inclusivity. The last example is a bit more of an outlier, but we saw an interest also in digital related projects. So typically, funding opportunities for digital projects, they tend to be more addressed to SMEs, at least in the European context, the European and neighbors context. But this shouldn't deter you as a city to look into them, because this is definitely something that could be developed as a partnership or a collaboration with your local private ecosystem. This is, for instance, a funding program under a Horizon core, so accessible to all countries that are affiliated with Horizon. And it's looking specifically at solutions related to the leveraging of artificial intelligence. The final part I wanted to focus on for this presentation is a bit also a connection with the first sessions of this community of practices. For the ones that missed the first, don't worry, it's a bit of very, very short recap. But I wanted to go back to what makes things and projects attractive. So there's two sides. The first one is really looking at what to think about in terms of making your project appealing to funders, especially for the ones that are looking more at accessing forms of borrowing. Project finance is quite important, understanding or defining in a quite robust way what could be the costs of your project. If there is a revenue, what is the return on investment, and what could be the risk associated with the delivery of the project. But then also very important is to do the appropriate level of research on the alignment with the donor and funders' goals. And this could be really an inspiration also for improving the impact of your project, which takes me to the last block on the right-hand side, where in a way to enhance the opportunities for your project to attract funding is to clearly articulate and think about the wider project impacts. So how your initiative, even if it's just related to a single building, is a lever to create capacity building and increase local ownership, increase gender and social inclusion, or a way to improve governance and processes. And then this is just one of the two sides of attracting funding and finance. The other aspect, of course, is related to making your local government appealing to funders. And this could be thought about in three, again, areas. One is about the suitability of the local legal and economic framework. The second one, which I put at the center because I think this applies to any type of funding and finance, unlike other areas that might be a bit more specific to loans and bonds, but really being able to demonstrate a certain level of suitable policy framework, the transparency, the accountability of the local administration is key. And pursuing funds could be also the opportunity to promote initiatives to improve local operations. And then the last part, which is specifically applicable to borrowing, is about the health of municipal finance. So just to conclude, I think if we wanted to summarize some of these principles, it's important to reflect on the fact that you may have your go-to way, and you've seen an array of options, but the actual funding mix really needs to be tailored to all of the factors that are presented in the previous couple of slides, and also to even your local culture. Some countries have a strong diaspora component, and diaspora associations can provide a significant financial support for specific projects. what I wanted to invite you to do through this presentation was also to go beyond your business as usual. So you've seen how you could think about alternative sources. You may have been familiar with some of them, but maybe you never considered to run for a challenge. So, and you can see that the process of applying for these instruments is in itself a process of transformation for your city. Secondly, the advantage of these instruments is also to connect directly with the funder without having to go through different layers of government thinking, depending on your country, the regional government, or even the national government. So it creates a direct connection with the funder. Said this, I would also like to stress that it's important to balance creativity with rigor. So having a systematic approach in assessing what are the options and what your capability to attract that will make a best use of your time and also be more impactful and efficient in the way you plan your funding mix for your projects. And the very last point, closing on my slide, that it's a reminder that lenders also select not just projects, but also borrowers. So think cohesively about your initiatives and also how you structure your own local government to be appealing to funders. So I'll stop here and then I hand it over to Julia. Thanks.
Julia?
Thank you, Giacomo. Yes, sorry, my line dropped a second. Thank you, Giacomo, for this presentation. I would actually right now invite Mike Brown, that is our expert, is a global city lead at the Climate Bond Initiative, and he will describe how green bonds are working and alternative financing funding option. To you, Mike.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for including me here today. I'm very happy to talk to all of you. As Julia said, I'm with the Climate Bonds Initiative, so our focus is green and other kinds of labeled bonds. But prior to joining Climate Bonds about 2 years ago, I spent 15 years or so as an issuer for the city of San Francisco. So I'm very familiar with local government finance and the challenges and opportunities related to that. So I just want to start by saying that the crisis caused by climate change is, of course, we know this as local government officials, hitting cities now. So it's not abstract, it's occurring now. And it's a huge crisis, huge problem, but it's also an opportunity to ensure that whatever capital investments we're making now, because these projects will be in the ground for decades, that they are ultimately going to support your city's goals related to climate, social impacts, and nature. So it's just something to think about in terms of your capital planning and budgeting to ensure that everything you're doing with your city's money supports these long-term goals. And capital, as we know, is one of the largest line items in a budget, if not the largest line item. So now just talking a little bit, since Giacomo did such a nice job talking about the range of options that a city should consider, I'm going to really focus on green and what we call labeled bonds. So it's green, social, sustainable, and linked bonds as a funding mechanism. And of course, it'll be very sort of country specific if cities can actually access the capital markets or not, if actually can issue. So I'll talk about a few other funding options, but I'll try to keep it into since Giacomo covered so many good options. And the other point he made, which I think is absolutely important, is it's key to optimize your funding sources. So your sort of cost of capital, whether you use your own money, or get a grant, which is free, or you're borrowing at the market rate through bonds, you want to take advantage of free and low cost borrowing as much as possible before you get into borrowing at, say, a market rate. So you really want to optimize your capital sources so that you're not putting too much burden on your community, on your city in terms of debt service. So while I do definitely suggest cities look at every kind of option before issuing bonds, so that's, own source revenues, transfers, grants, public-private partnerships, partnerships with corporations. Like I know of examples where a bottling company has partnered with a city to help improve the water quality because they benefit, the bottling company also benefits from that. So I would look at sort of every option before you actually are issuing bonds or taking out a market rate loan. But I will say bonds can be a very efficient way to borrow, especially for large projects. You tend to need a large project for it to make sense. You can also come together, several communities could come together in a pooled financing approach. So the ticket size of the individual projects can be lower. So that's still an efficient way to do it. But it'll depend a lot on the government's credit quality. And I'll come back to that in a minute, what I mean by credit quality. But first I'll talk about why would a city issue a green bond versus say a regular bond? Like what would be the advantage? And what I experienced myself in San Francisco and what I see happening throughout the world is issuers do get benefits from issuing a labeled bond, like a green bond. And I'll tell you some of the benefits, which are it communicates to stakeholders. So this could be your citizens, your ratepayers, but also rating agencies and investors that you are taking climate into account and you're investing in building a more resilient in a more resilient city, or if it's a water utility, the operations of this water utility will be more resilient to climate shocks and therefore really a better credit, better able to repay its debt, which is really the fundamental point of a credit score, is what's your likelihood of default or repayment. And also, so you're making that communication, and it can lead to more demand from investors, especially impact and ESG investors, which ultimately can lead to lower borrowing rates, which is the goal for governments, of course. So I'll just take a moment and talk about what we've seen since green bonds really took off in the late, like 2009 or so. 2008, I think, was the first issuance. So until from that time on, we've experienced about $4.4 trillion cumulatively in this green, social, sustainable, and linked market. So it's quite large. There's approximately $1 trillion globally issued each year, with Europe accounting for nearly half of that. So Europe is the biggest region that issues debt. And thanks, I think, to in large part to European pension funds, there's a lot of demand in Europe for green bonds and labeled bonds. And often there's a benefit for the issuer, a pricing benefit in terms of lower borrowing costs. So if your city is at the level that you're considering issuing bonds, I definitely think issuing green bonds would be advantageous. The other thing I'll point out is when you do issue a bond, whether it's green or not, you have to think about your credit. So on that complexity matrix that Giacomo showed, it is at the extreme end. It is a complex thing, or I think blended finance maybe was at the very end, but it is a very complex thing to issue bonds because you need to really have your sort of house in order. And it can take years to prepare your community. And so in terms of credit worthiness, this idea that this concept of that credit rating agencies look at and investors look at is, it's how likely are you to repay your debt? And what they want to look at to determine that is fundamentally, do you have independently audited financial statements going back several years? So this is an important step. You'll also need to demonstrate that your community has of course, the legal authority to issue debt. So these are just some like fundamental things when you're issuing debt. They'll also want to understand the governance structure. So what kind of oversight is there? So they're going to want to look at all of these things, and it is a lengthy process, but it's a good thing to do. Another thing you'll want to do, and this is whether you're issuing bonds or even if you're doing loans or other kinds of green financing, is prepare a green financing framework, green, or I would say sustainable finance framework. And that will help you build a pipeline of projects that are eligible for this kind of financing. So, and the green financing framework is based or generally based on the four core principles that have been outlined by the ICMA, the International Capital Markets Association. And I won't go through each of the four, but basically what the idea is that you are going to ensure that whatever project you propose get funded is essentially screened to ensure that it's aligned with your city's climate goals, social impact goals, and nature goals. That way, nothing hopefully will fall through the cracks and get funded that will weaken your city's ability from reaching its goals. So, and then there's some other good practice, best practice recommendations in the framework, which are regarding reporting and managing of the green proceeds. But really, the fundamental point is you're going to want to have real rigorous process for screening projects to ensure they're eligible. And I'll just say that there is support out there, and you probably know about this, but I'm just going to name a few things that I think could be useful resources. There's the Green Climate Fund. They offer grants and low-cost financing for this kind of work in Eastern Europe. The GEF, the Global Environment Facility, I believe is what that stands for. That's also a very good resource. And then I would also point you to project preparation facilities like the GAP Fund. And these organizations for free will work with governments on developing projects from concept, doing feasibility studies, et cetera, and then also linking the city to potential funders. So that's a very good resource. And I also just want to point out that the OECD, I know, has a program that's funded by the EU to support green finance in Eastern Europe, Eastern Partnership countries, and they're going to be launching that work next year. So there's some good opportunities out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I think this presentation was very comprehensive and is introducing directly our next speaker, which is going to be Valentin Cara is a deputy mayor for Seri Lunga, and he's going to talk about the municipal bonds in Moldova. So we are entering the topic in a more specific way. To you, Valentin.
Да, добрый день всем участникам конференции. Меня слышно?
Hello, dear participants of the conference. Do you hear me?
Уважаемые коллеги, добрый день.
Colleagues, good afternoon. My name is Valentin Cara. I am the deputy mayor of the municipality of a small city with a population of 20,000 people. It is situated on the south in Moldova, and I would like shortly describe you the measure of financial instrument which is applied and it refers to the issuing of the state shares. And I would like to start from the beginning that the municipality
Любые муниципалитеты
any municipalities during the process of their development are always interested in the searching of the potential investors.
One second, like in the Russian channel, somebody is speaking. If you can make sure, maybe the translators or who, if you could mute your microphone. Thank you very much. Пожалуйста, Валентин Кара, продолжайте. Спасибо.
Спасибо. Да, я хотел бы начать с того, что
And I
любые
would like to
муниципалитеты любых
start that
стран
any
всегда в
municipalities at
поиске
any
каких-либо
countries are
потенциальных
always
инвесторов, партнеров
interested
по
in the
развитию
potential
или в
investors,
поиске
the
каких-либо
developing
финансовых
partners,
инструментов для того,
or
чтобы
in the research
развивать
of
свои
new
населенные пункты.
financial
В этой
tools in
связи
order to
в
develop
Республике Молдова
their
еще с
cities.
2000-х годов в
So in
действующем
Moldova from
законодательстве был внедрен
2000,
новый финансовый
from
инструмент,
the legislative
такой
point
как
of view, it
выпуск
was
муниципальных облигаций,
introduced a
но в
new
силу различных
tool
причин, эта
that
причина,
refers
наверное,
to the
можно
municipality
назвать
shares.
такие
And
как
the
сложность, это
reason
причина
of its
незнания того,
introduction
что
was
этот
that
инструмент
the
не
lack of
использовался
knowledge of this
муниципалитетами или
tool, and
местной
which was
власти
not
для развития
used
своих
by
населенных пунктов.
municipalities and
Как правило,
local
обычно
authorities to
мэрии
improve the
всегда,
situation in their
если
locations.
нуждаются в каком-либо финансировании,
So if we speak about
брали
the
кредиты в
municipalities,
коммерческих банках, скажем
they
так, и,
usually took the
соответственно,
loans in
на
the
определенные
commercial
проценты, на
banks,
определенные суммы,
and
и,
it
соответственно,
was
эти
the
финансовые
certain
средства,
margin,
которые они
certain
получали,
sum
они
of
направляли их
money,
в
and of
развитие.
course
Что
for
же
the
касается
means they
нового
received,
инструмента
they
выпуска
use them for
муниципальных
the development
облигаций,
of their cities. If we speak about the issuing of the
данный инструмент
municipality shares,
впервые был
this tool, first
опробирован,
of
наверное,
all, was
в
approved in
2021 году в Республике Молдова
2021 in
при
Republic of
финансовой
Moldova with
поддержке
the financial
Голландии
support
и
of
аналитического
Holland
центра
and
Республики Молдова
with the
Expert
support
Group,
of
которые на
analytical
примере трех
center expert
муниципалитетов
group of Moldova.
показали,
And
что
basing
данный
on the
финансовый
experience
инструмент,
of
он
30
работает, он
municipalities,
привлекателен
it
по
was shown
определенным
that this
моментам, которые
tool
я
is
назову
very
ниже, и,
effective, it
соответственно,
is
да, и
attractive in
имеются
this
сложности, скажем
area.
так, с
And of course,
имплементацией в
there are
целом
some
всего проекта,
challenges of
потому что
its
необходимо
implementation
множество
of this
всяких
project
разрешений, множество
because
всяких авизов,
different
множество всяких,
requests
скажем
are
так,
needed,
бюрократических вот этих вот
applications
процедур.
and
Но,
much
тем не менее,
bureaucratic
это
procedures are
интересный для
needed.
мэрий
But
механизм
it is
рабочий,
not the
и я,
interesting
соответственно,
process
вам
for the
приведу
mayor.
этот пример.
But our
Итак, мы
conclusion is
сегодня
that this
кратко поговорим
mechanism is
о
very
муниципальных
effective
облигациях,
in
структуре
its
процесса выпуска
action.
муниципальных
And
облигаций,
now I
опыта
am going to give you
муниципалитета
the
в 2021
description about the
году, опыта
procedure of the
муниципалитета в
state
2024 году. Это
shares,
буквально
the
неделю назад мы
experience that
выпустили
we
новые
had
облигации,
in
я тоже чуть-чуть позже скажу.
2024. And
И в
even a
целом
week ago, we
продолжительность,
issued the
скажем так,
new
всего
series
процесса,
of state shares. And I'm
мы
going
данные
also to
взяли
describe you the whole
международные,
process.
где сроки немножко отличаются
We
от сроков, которые были в
took
Республике
the
Молдова, но тем
periods
не менее
which
я
were applied from the practical
назову
point
реальные
of
сроки,
view
по которым
for
мы
Moldavian
работали. Итак,
experience.
муниципальные облигации в
The,
2021
the
году, как я сказал,
municipality
был
shares
пилотный
in
проект Республики Молдова.
2021, it was the pilot project in
В
Moldova,
качестве нового финансового
and
инструмента был
it
представлен этот
was as a
механизм для
new
привлечения
financial
инвестиций и реализации
tool
местных
for the
проектов. И
mechanism for the
что такое
implementation
муниципальные
of the
облигации? Это
local
деловые
project.
ценные
What does it
бумаги,
mean, these municipality
выпущенные
shares?
местными органами
These
власти
are the
для
valuable
привлечения
shares issued
средств на
by
такие важные
the
проекты, как,
government
допустим,
for
улучшение
such
инфраструктуры,
important projects
модернизация
as improvement
энергетики,
situation in
строительство,
infrastructure,
ремонт
for
объектов
the energy
общественной
efficiency,
инфраструктуры.
and for the
Итак, что
construction of
касается
the
структуры, я
public
здесь остановлюсь
infrastructure.
немножко подробнее.
If we speak about the
Мы
infrastructure
разделили
in details, I
7
would like to
основных,
tell you
на
that
7 основных
we
пунктов,
have
но я
separated
каждый
7
пункт
key
попробую
points,
более
and
детально
every
раскрыть.
point
Итак,
I would
принятие
like to
решения о
describe in
выпуске
details.
муниципальных облигаций.
So the
Это,
decision
наверное,
was
самый
taken
первый
about the
такой
municipality
основополагающий
shares
принцип,
issuing, and
где
it was
местные
the
органы
main
власти
principle where the local
беря на себя
authorities
ответственность,
took the
хотят попробовать нечто
responsibility,
новое,
and
что-то
they would like to
инновационное,
try something
как
new,
мы это
innovative one,
опробировали в 2021 году. И,
as it was
соответственно,
approved in
коллегиальный орган при
2021,
муниципалитете, в
and
данном случае это
the
местный совет,
council, municipality
по
council,
предложению мэрии, руководства
according
мэрии,
to the
принимает решение
mayor
об участии в этом
advice,
проекте.
took the decision
И,
to participate in this
повторюсь,
project.
используя новый
And
механизм, не
it
брать
was used the
какой-либо
absolutely new
займ, как это в
mechanism,
коммерческих
not to
банках,
take
а
the
именно использовать новый
lowest from
механизм.
the commercial banks, but to
Второе.
use
После
absolutely
принятия
new
решения,
structure,
когда
absolutely new
непосредственно
mechanism. When the
муниципалитет и
decision
его
was
структуры
approved and the
принимают это решение,
municipality and
они
its
занимаются
structures
тем,
took
что
this
находят
decision,
финансового
they
посредника,
are searching the financial intermediate who will participate in the process of the whole project implementation, and he's responsible to fulfill this project from its beginning till the end. What does it mean, financial intermediate? In our case, according to the legislative system of Moldova, it could be any commercial bank which is involved with the financial and currency means and which is able to offer the consultations, financial consultations at any stages of the project and to offer the consultations to the municipality, which is able to fulfill the offer for the project, to design the terms of the project, to estimate the costs of the project. And the financial intermediate is selected at the competition rate. We announced that tender, and one of the commercial banks from Moldova agreed to be this financial intermediate and agreed to participate in this project. This bank initiated the margin, and it was chosen as the full right participant of this project. And it was our supporter in financial means. Then, and it is a very important factor, the improvement of the project. What does it mean? Any municipality in Moldova has the will or the desire or the purpose to use non-budget means, and namely for financial means, which are coming with the help of loans, must receive the approval from the Ministry of Finance. So the structures which will, state institutions which will be able to make the detailed assessment of all tools, mechanisms, income system of the budget, including the expenditures, as a result, offer us the final conclusion for the municipality council in order to allow the municipality council to take this loan, which will be no more than 20% from its own income, and to receive this financial needs. And this confirmation from the Ministry of Finance is directed to the financial intermediate who prepares, who elaborates the design of the project, where the terms of the project are indicated, the sums of money, the economical identification, the potential economical issues of the city, and the possibility of the realization of the sustainable results of this project, and to guarantee the potential investors the fruitful results in the future. Also, a very important factor here is that within the national legislation of the Republic of Moldova, there is one more actor introduced, and he became a new actor for us. This is the National Financial Market Commission. This is the state body where the estimation, the assessment of this value shares process takes place. So if we speak about the generally accepted norms, the commercial institutions are allowed to take the loans between them. They take the loans, they receive the approval from the Ministry of Finance, and the national structure is introduced at the moment when the municipalities have the possibility to issue these value shares. And the emission of these value shares takes place at this process. Then, when the National Financial Market Commission has examined our project, and we received the approval for the whole period of the project. It happens the process of attracting the potential investors. What does it mean? The commercial banks, for example, in our case, our bank, which is the full right actor in the process, has the relationship within the Republic of Moldova or its own president. It step by step starts to inform the juridical and physical party, its residents, about the new financial mechanisms or tools which are going to invest the financial means in this process. And as a result, it will be the benefit to receive these financial means with the minimum risk. About the level of risk, I'm going to tell you more details later on, and to participate in the process of the development process of this locality, of this municipality. Then the payment of the margin is also one important point which we have to focus our attention to, and we have to give you one example. For example, if municipality shares are issuing for 3 or 5 years, what is the difference between them? What is the difference between these shares in comparison with a simple loan from the bank? According to the agreement of the parties, it could be every semester or once in a half of the year. Usually we prefer the semestral agreements, but within the term of our project, it will take place once in a half year. So the issuing of the municipality shares, the body of the loan is paid according to the full period of the project activity, and it doesn't matter what is the length of the project, 3 or 5 years, but the total sum of the loan is paid at the end of the project. And this is the main difference of this financial tool in comparison with the loans from the commercial banks. Here I have told you about the total payment of the loan, and if we speak about the goal usage of the financial means, there is a description about the usage of financial means. It is also very extremely important because every actor within the project has to be sure that the financial means are going to be used strictly their destination, and in our case, they are going to be used for the rehabilitation process of the infrastructure. It could be absolutely different example. It could be the project repairing the greening, the energy efficiency, and in our situation, this is the improvement of the situation of the infrastructure. If we speak about our experience for 2021, that is the experience which we used before. As you have already mentioned, we attracted the investors for 150 million euro. These financial means were directed to the road infrastructure, where municipality shares were bought during 5 days, and they were bought with a 6% annual margin. And this margin is, as a matter of fact, the annual percentage. And it doesn't matter what kind of person has them both the juridical person or the physical person. They are put as a deposit in the bank. Today in Moldova, the percentage rate is 3-4%. And the investor who buys these municipality shares for 3 or 5 years, at the same way, he puts these shares in the bank, but the margin rate, the percentage rate is higher. So it is not so profitable for investors in comparison with the physical parties. And as at the end of the project, we are fulfilling all our responsibilities. And according to the final results of the project, we are going to pay 3,000 euro as a total sum of the loan. The financial means are to the financial partner of the project, and he is already sharing these means for the physical and juridical actors within the project. And we finalize the project, and then we address the financial commission at the labor market, and we demand them to free us from the financial responsibility. And we buy back the financial shares. That is the process. If we speak about the experience of 2024, on Monday this week, it was 7th of October, I was participating at the presentation of the project of the municipality shares, and there was presented information about the whole process of the project implementation due to the assistance of our partners, the representatives of the National Commission of the Financial Market in Moldova. They organized this seminar, and they were offered to buy these municipality shares with a 6.58 annual percentage, and the total sum was 5 million leis. I can say that in comparison with the last year, the sum was increased. And for our surprise, the municipality shares were offered for the trade in the morning, until the end of the day, all the shares were purchased by the President of the Republic of Moldova. And we have to mention that in 2024, our mayor office was the pilot actor, and we were the first who used these municipality shares. Thank you very much, Mr. Kara. The presentation is a very interesting one. Please sum up. And if we describe the terms, we action strictly according to the international terms, because we have made the analysis about the experience of other European countries, and the terms which were available for us are from 4 till 6 months. And from the moment of the project presentation, it will take 5 months with the fulfillment of all offers. And also I would like to mark the risk for the investors, and they are minimum. And why do we say that they are minimum? Because the financial stability is guaranteed by the local authorities, which is presented by the juridical party, or this is the state institution which guarantees the risks by the budget coverage. And the 3 processes of this financial mechanism refers to the low percentage, low margin for 2-3 points. The second, the maneuvering of the public finance. It means that we are not tied to the monthly sum of the commercial banks, and at the end we pay the full sum of money. And the third point is, which is critically important, the participation of the citizens, where we build and develop our city by ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Valentin. This was super helpful. And I would like to take this opportunity to check if anybody has any questions to this presentation or Mr. Michael's presentation before this. Any questions that you would like to ask?
Hello, can I have a question for?
Yes, please.
So my name is Christina. I am representative of Municipality Strășeni, Deputy Mayor, and I would like to ask how was opinion of local council about this example and how they vote for this initiative. They totally agree, or maybe someone not accept this idea with these obligations.
Да, я отвечу коротко. Очень важный вопрос, Кристина, спасибо.
Yes, I am going to answer your question. Thank you very much, Christina. Your question is very important within this project because if
эту идею, не голосует за это, соответственно, никакого проекта не будет. Почему? Потому что действующее законодательство как Молдовы, так и стран Европейского Союза предписывает о том, что финансами распоряжаются в данном случае коллегиальный орган, советники, да? Коли это мы говорим о финансовом инструменте, финансовой сделке, если местный совет не поддерживает эту идею, в целом проекта не будет. В нашем случае нас однозначно поддержали единогласно, поэтому вот имеем на 2024 год уже второй опыт.
Thank you. Спасибо вам огромное. Нам интересно
Thank you very
ваш опыт,
much.
так
It's
что мы
really interesting, your
наблюдаем
experience.
за все развитие. Спасибо.
Great. Thank you so much. If there are no any more questions, we will close today's call. Today's idea was to just get together and understand a little bit on different kinds of funding streams. And in the next session, we will focus on understanding green and sustainable finance. It would be a panel discussion where experts will come together and discuss around this topic. So we hope you can join us again next Friday. The invitations also should be with you. Thank you once again for joining and looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Thank you to the interpreters and thank you to the facilitators,
Thank you.
presenters.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.